Hello, this is Brian Higney, instructor of Game and Interactive Media Design. The next thing we're going to do is actually render to texture, which means take all the information from here and bake it onto square maps that we can apply to the low poly. Alright, the first thing we need to do though is light our scene, and there's a reason why. Maybe I should just render it normally without. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll pretend, yes. Sorry, you're listening to my brain talk. I'm going to select the low poly barrel. That's what you need to do. Select the low poly barrel and tap the 0 key, which is, actually, we'll be going to rendering, render to texture, which is down here. Yeah, which is 0. Just tap 0. Render to texture. Now, it's kind of a weird window with a lot of stuff going on. We have the low poly barrel. That's what we're rendering to. We have, let's see, selected object settings. That's fine. Projection mapping. We want to project all of the detail from the high poly onto the low poly barrel. So I'm going to pick. And I'm going to, pick from this target. I'm going to click on the high poly barrel. That's why I wanted that to be like a single object, just to make it easier. Add. Okay, now, that added this cage here. That is a wonderful looking cage, to be quite honest. In previous... Oh no, look at that cruddy. Stop it. Look at this cruddy cage here. So, for some reason, this always seems to happen. This is actually one of the nicer cages I've seen that was made automatically. Is the cage will be screwed up. So, let's go ahead and just fix the cage. What you'll notice is my low poly barrel was selected. I tapped 0 to render to texture, and when I clicked pick and picked the projection mapping from the high poly, it added a projection modifier onto the low poly model. And under reference geometry, you can see it's over here. It's referencing the high poly barrel. Okay, good job. What I want to do is scroll down into the cage. Into the cage place. And I'm going to click reset. I need to reset that cage. Every time I've ever done this in Max, I've had to reset that cage. And you'll notice it resets. And the next thing I need to do is increase the amount under push. The amount. Increase it. And what I want... I'm not going to increase it yet, because I need to make it shaded. When you make it shaded, what you're doing is you are shading what is encapsulated within the cage. Okay, so right now you see that shaded part? That's going to be captured in the projection mapping. So as I increase that push, you can see it's being pushed out and it's slowly taking up more and more of the model. And I want everything encapsulated within that cage. You can see that circle, not quite in that cage yet. Any other instances not in that cage? I'm going to push it a little bit more. The other thing here is, let's scroll down here. These rivets need to be encapsulated, encompassed in that cage. And just push it, push it, push it. You see it's coming. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that looks normal. I hope this works. And that looks normal. Okay. Okay, so I think the cage is fine. I'm going to leave it as that. Okay, next thing. Mapping coordinates. Well, I spent a lot of time choosing to unwrap my low poly. So I'm going to say use existing channel. And in this case, in Max, it's channel number 1. That's the channel that I unwrapped all that stuff for. 2. Sub-objects use channel 1, 2. Okay. Okay, the next thing. Output. What are we going to output? We are going to click add because right now we have nothing. Add. Now, these are the maps that we are going to add. The complete map is like the full, if you render all your shadows, your diffuse, any sort of lighting, like all of this stuff, it puts them all together into a complete, beautiful looking photo. We don't want the complete finished looking product. we're going to start with the diffuse map. The diffuse map is purely color. It's going to take these colors here and project them onto a square. You'll see how that works. Let's click Add Diffuse. Okay, now it adds a 256 by 256. What we're going to go ahead and do is let's just change that to 512 by 512, just to make it a little bigger. And I'm not going to make it too terribly big, because it's going to take a long time to render, and I don't like to do that to myself. The other thing I'm going to do is click to this 3 dots, and to say where do I want to save it to. So right now, file name and type. I am going to save it to a new place. Let's see, where am I saving this barrel to? That is actually a good question. D drive for Hackney. Do I have a tutorials? And I think I have barrel. And I'm going to need to make a new folder here called maps. And inside maps, this is going to be LP barrel diffuse map TGA. That's fine. And I'm going to save 32 bits. I'll just keep default everything. Okay. The next one, I need to add another map. So I'm going to go back up to output and click add. And I'm going to click shadows. Shadows, I'm also going to do 512 by 512. I'm also going to click this 3 buttons. Going to go switch the output location. For every single one, nope, not that one. For every single one, I need to change that location. And there we go. Save, yes. And I'm going to add a normals map. Is that right? I mean, yes, that's right. I know that's right. Is that all? I think just these 3. 512 by 512, and then click the little 3 buttons, go to this PC. Yes, my C drive is almost full. I know it. You don't have to point it out to me. Oh, tutorials, barrel, and maps. Yay, yay, okay. Oh, baked material, just don't worry about this, because I'm actually not baking these. I'm not sending these, like, to the material that's on the low poly. I guess I could. I never thought about doing that, but maybe I will. I'll do a standard blend. Yeah. Just don't worry about that. And because you wouldn't have to worry about this anyway. Automatic mapping. No, I'm not doing automatic mapping. I'm actually using the mapping that I spent so long creating. So those are the only few things we need to do. You need to pick your projection, which was the high poly. You need to make sure that the mapping coordinate says use existing channel. You need to add diffuse, shadows, and normal. And you need to make sure they're saved in a good spot. I'm using a smallish map size, 512 by 512 by 512 for all of these. And I'm going to hit the render button. And it's going to say, hey, these following objects don't specify a map slot. Oops, I forgot to do that. Oh well. So my material won't work. But that's okay. I honestly don't care about this right now, so say okay. And it's going to render all of these. Now, this is what it would all look like if I were to render this image. Now, why is it like that? Because 3D Max has this default light in the scene. And so now that I'm over here, I think if I were to render that again, whoops, cancel. If I were to render that again, and yes, I'm going to overwrite all the files, I think, yeah, the lighting is in a slightly different spot because I rotated it. There's like this pretend light that's in your scene. This is not going to look right, but it is. You shouldn't worry about it just yet. Now, there are some issues with this redness there. That is an issue. Not sure at the moment why that's like that. Oh, I bet I know. Ooh, okay. We'll get to that later, when we fix this. So don't worry about that, because this isn't where the magic happens. This image that it shows you is like the final fully lit thing. How do we see the other stuff? Well, let's go to our file folder, and come on. We're over here. Let's go to where I'm holding that stuff. D drive. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Tutorials, barrel, maps. Now these are Targas, so I think, can I open these with just anything? Let me open them all in Photoshop. Oops, yeah, open them in Photoshop. Yes, what you just saw was a Photoshop from a tutorial I was thinking about doing with some political stuff. Okay, so this is the diffuse map, and what this shows is some weird stuff here. Stop it! It shows the wood from, let's come in here. It shows the brown from the high poly, then the metal from the metal ribs, and then there's a few issues going on here with the cage and the way it's rendering. And these issues are because of the way that the, we can fix that later. Okay, but what else is going on? We've got a normals map. Now, the normals map is where it's bumped. So now you can see, yeah, there's something going on here that's not quite right. You can see these are indentations in the line. I'm not sure why this stuff is there. And then shadows map, well, guess what? There's nothing there. So that's going to be an issue. So one thing I want to do in the next couple minutes is to show you why there's nothing there. I'm going to close these down. And let's just close that, close that. Okay. So why isn't there anything there? Well, that's because I have no light in my scene except for that fake one, which doesn't do anything. So I'm going to go to Create. I'm going to go to Create Light. I am going to go to Standard Lights, and I'm going to bring in a skylight. I'm going to enable skylight and just left click, and there it is. I'm going to right click on it, go to, or right click in the scene, go to Modify, and I think I want about, well, I'll keep this the way it is. Use sky color, turn it on. We need the render to cast shadows. That's what we need to do. Check that cast shadows. Okay, and if you select it off of your skylight, click it again, and now you can go to Modify tab and say all the stuff, cast shadows. Good. Now, when we render to texture, well, let's select the low poly barrel again, tab 0. All of the settings are still there, don't worry. We are going to render, and we are going to continue and overwrite these files. It's going to take longer. Why is it going to take longer? Because we are now casting shadows. Now, this doesn't look good, that's for certain, but that's okay. Well, that looks good. Don't worry, in the next video I'm going to figure out what's going on with the top here. I think it's the cage. See how long it's rendering. And now what we get are these little shades, and that shadow is from, of these rivets. We're going to be able to actually bake that onto the low poly object itself. It's going to be really helpful for our scene, or for our material. Okay, now when we open that up, let's just open these up again. Shift, right click, open. Okay, now we've got our normal, which there's still something going on here. I'm not sure what that is. We have our diffuse, and in our shadows map we now have all of these shadows between the slats and where the rivets are. Really wonderful stuff. Yeah, something's going on right there. So that is how we kind of bake the shadows, or bake all these maps. These are now saved in our folder here, and the next thing we need to do, and I did it 512 by 512 just so that I could do them quicker. And now I'm going to try to fix all of these little problems that you might have in your own project. So I will see you on the other side. Bye!